welcome to the Dream Boss Rebirth podcast. We have today a special guest, one of Jamaica's young upcoming star in the legal system, and we'll sit with him and find out how Jamaica law has been impacting our society. We have today Mr. Richard Lynch, and we'll be here finding out how important it is to stay away from the law, and should you be involved in the law, how you can seek legal representation. So Lynch, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the welcome.
All right. So Richard, we're gonna get straight into it. You represent a company that is known, the head of the company is Mr. Champagne, right?
King's Counsel, yes.
King's Counsel. What is your role there?
Well, what it is, it's a chamber setup where you have several attorneys there, mainly litigators or what you'd call barristers, and Mr. Champagne is the head of the chambers.
All right.
Yes.
So, Mr. Champagne is well known in Jamaica. How do you get that? You reach that level to work with him. How that start about?
Well, when I graduated and was called to the bar in 2016, I went through a series of interviews, and I was often told by my friends and family members that, they really think the best fit for me is criminal defense work. I always disagreed with that position. Yeah, right throughout law school.
Oh, so that wasn't your first?
That was absolutely not my first preference.
What was your first preference?
I actually wanted to get into corporate law.
Corporate, okay.
That was my intention. But I've always been encouraged by close friends and my mother especially that the best fit for me would be criminal defense work. I'd never asked why. But it might be something to do with, I guess, personality traits.
Okay.
So what had happened was, after I was called, it was January 2017. I remember it like clockwork. I have a close friend that had a connection to Mr. Champagne.
Cool.
Not a very close connection. All he had was his telephone number.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to share the number with you and you give him a call. And I gave him a random call and basically invited myself to attend trials with him to see if I could learn.
You would say voluntary service?
Essentially. That's what it would amount to at first.
Alright, so basically you're saying that you offer yourself voluntarily to work with Mr. Champagne as a means to learn from the best, and then hopefully you can work with him. Was that the case?
That was the case. Not necessarily to work with him, but one thing flowed into the other. I really just wanted to learn from him, and I'm still learning from him. But the intention at the time was really to get some experience at his feet. And he, after I called him, he said to me that, we should meet next week, Thursday.
Right.
I remember it was a specific day of the week. He said we should meet next week, Thursday, in the afternoon, perhaps about 3 o'clock. I called him about midday to see if it was still a good time to meet with him. And I had to basically reintroduce myself because he didn't remember who I was. I remember the discussion. And then he said I should come to his office. And I went there, we had a very brief discussion. There were several clients waiting outside. And he basically told me to sit in one of the litigators' chairs while he interviewed the clients, and I sat and I paid attention to how it was done.
So right here, and then he welcomed you, allow you to participate in one of the interview?
Yes, it was just one interview with one of his clients, and thereafter I didn't hear from him for about 3-4 weeks, and he randomly called me and invited me to attend a trial with him as his junior. And he gave me a copy of the case file. I still remember the name of the case and all the parties that were present, which I will not name now, or for the purposes of this interview. But and it was a very good trial. It was about 4 weeks. I started to question my decision because of course it was voluntary work, and we do have obligations as adults. And then after that trial, which was met with success, it was a murder trial. The gentleman was acquitted. Christopher Townsend was also in that trial too, representing the co-accused. And then after that trial ended, about a week or two after, his secretary called me.
And offer you a formal?
No, she said that there was a package for me. I should come for it. and I said, well, at least it wasn't time fully lost.
Right.
So
were you looking to other firms in between all of that? I mean, or you were just sticking to it to say that, hey, you want to work with Kings?
No, well, the primary intention was to really branch out into criminal defense work. There was no intention after the December 2016 period. There was no further intention to apply to any law firm. I decided that I will heed to the advice that I've received over the years,
right,
and started to do criminal defense work.
People underestimate the lot of research you have to do in certain cases, plus the mental stress that might come with it. Or you hang a burnout, or even just preparing for a case. If you can just briefly walk us through that.
Well, it is a lot of hard work. It requires maximum dedication, maximum hard work, maximum perseverance. It also requires you to have that desire to win. So it does take up a lot of stress, especially when you have to deal with the benefactors of the accused or the family members of the accused, and having to explain to them each step of the way, and they expect you to deliver.
That desire to win, though, is it regardless if on social media pressuring to say that the person is guilty? Social media nowadays sentence people before the court actually does. Yeah. How do you have to stay objective in ensuring that you're being as fair as possible representing a client, and not to be swayed by public opinion?
Well, I'm never perturbed by the court of public opinion. For all intents and purposes, it is irrelevant. What really matters is what takes place in the courtroom.
Okay.
And essentially, it matters not whether the person is perceived to be guilty. Many times it does not make the evidential threshold for them to be found guilty.
Okay. But is it a case that the co-accused or the person being accused allegedly have prior history of similar crime?
Yeah.
So how do you basically represent that client, knowing that there's some possibility that this person might be guilty of?
I don't know there's a possibility for the person to be guilty. Each case is dealt with by a case-by-case basis.
Case by case.
The circumstances in their past might have been very well different from the circumstances now.
Okay.
Which may be why they could be possibly wrongfully accused.
That's true, but
because of the past. Some persons are haunted by the past.
Yeah, that's true. But most persons would say that I don't know. Mr. Champagne would represent questionable persons in of society, basically. It has been said that most of the person that under his representation are high profile in certain extreme cases. Is it that a fair statement to say that you like to represent those type of person, that of those caliber, or it's just a matter of they reaching out to you guys for representation?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a matter of what we like to represent. It's more of a matter of who decides to come to us. Whoever decides to come to us.
Have you ever refused a case? Basically, it's just not your thing. You have no interest.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Everybody deserves fair representation.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah, fair and balanced representation.
Okay. How do you sleep at night though after winning a case?
After winning a case,
Yeah, after winning a case.
as usual, very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
And how do you feel if you should lose a case?
Now that's where we have a problem. That's where we have a problem.
Yeah.
You see, losing a case comes with a different set of pain.
For you, or to face the
benefactors
of the court case?
Both.
For you personally,
Both.
as a ego, or
You see, to be a good advocate, my view is that you have to be an egoist.
naturally,
You have to
you
be.
create the ego, you prove why. the
You
ego is
have
there.
to have that level of confidence that is superior to others.
Mhm.
The moment you enter a room, especially if there is a matter where there's a jury, 7 people that you have never met before or seen before. Maybe they have seen you, but you definitely haven't seen them before. And the impression that you give to them is that this is a man who's a winner.
Mhm.
So how you walk, how you talk, how you dress,
Mhm.
how you present yourself before the court,
Mhm.
it's all important.
It's a package.
It's a package. That's the preferred
So
way
would
to describe
you
it.
say
It's a
that
complete
a jury
package.
would be swayed by the perception of the defendant attorney than more so the case itself? Would they be swayed by your persuasion? Because it's all about persuasion, right?
It's a large part of it when it comes to a jury is about persuasion. And a lot of things can affect a juror's mind.
Mhm.
I've had cases before where one of the, like, after the case is completed,
Mhm.
sometimes you get a perception of how the jurors think. This is long after it's completed.
After.
Like,
So you
all right, I
could-
can give you an example.
Sure.
I can give you an example. A couple years ago, I had a matter of a sexual nature before the Supreme Court.
You are representing someone.
Right. I was representing someone who had a case like that. And I was just randomly walking on the street. Someone called to me. I called to them politely, of course. And they came across to me and said, "You don't remember me, sir? Mr. Lynch, you don't remember me?" And I said, "No, explain." And they're like, "I was a juror in that case with so and so and so." And I said, "I didn't even fully remember the case, but they explained it to me and I appreciated what they were saying." And then I asked them, "What is it that
Was it
allowed
a
you to
win?
come
Was
to?"
it a win?
Of course, it was a win.
Of course.
Well, not of course, but that was a win. There was it was a female who was speaking to me. And she said what swayed her was during the summation when I smiled. And another thing, she said my shoes was always clean. Can you imagine that? Not saying it was just those 2 things that
Yeah, but for her.
won the case, but she was saying that is what she remembered a lot.
About it.
And then she was saying that, and then she obviously mentioning the reason why she didn't believe the victim of the alleged incident. But every little thing counts with a jury.
Oh.
Every little
So
thing.
is it fair to say that you do better when you have cases before the jury? Because it's not influenced solely by the judge opinion, but 7 minds that don't think alike, don't dress alike. They have different attributes that comes together as a thought process. You work better in front of a jury than, in front of the court.
Well, it all depends on the circumstances of the case. It's always good to build your skills as an advocate before a jury. I think it's the much preferred route, generally speaking. But there are certain cases that are better dealt with by judges sitting on the bench alone determining.
Okay.
And, I have full confidence in our juries.
For those leaving university, I want to understand how to be successful in the field of law. Well, what would be some of your advice? Because not everyone would have that opportunity.
How to be successful?
Yeah, not everyone would have that opportunity you had. I mean, you made it happen all by yourself, but other persons might just come out of school, finish their the bar and all of that, but don't have the ability to reach person that can really give them the experience they need, to get their foot in.
You see,
How would you approach it?
you see how I interpret it or appreciate it is that you have to have the burning desire to do well.
Okay.
And you have to have certain animalistic tendencies. Is either you hunt or you be hunted.
So how does this revolve around fitness and health? Because we understand the stress level that you
High stress level.
high stress level, maximum, as you mentioned. Does your health to make sure that you're in good shape, but it does mention that it does affect the perception of the jury? How important is keeping a healthy body, a healthy mind is important, to continue this profession?
Well, to be frank with you, I've recently discovered this, how important it is to maintain your health. I've actually recently started to exercise, and I find that it helps to clear my mind and also affects my energy levels and also how I think.
All right.
It adds some clarity of mind.
Yeah.
And also dieting is also important because sometimes, because of the high stress level and the anxiety, you find it that you're working without even feeding your body. It's very possible. It has happened to me over the years, and it also is important to have a release.
Okay. So exercise is one avenue of releasing tension. What about, you're young. Do you party? Do you enjoy yourself like other young person?
Of course, it's absolutely important to have an active social life.
Right, a social outlet.
Yes, an active social outlet is absolutely important because it's a balance, and I'm discovering this and I'm learning it now. You have to divide your days. You have to have rest. You have to divide it with your work and your vocation. You have leisure and entertainment, and then you also have part in service to your creator. So it's how you divide the time.
So spirituality is a part of your balance as well?
Of course.
Yeah?
Yes.
Where you pray before a case, after a case?
Not necessarily,
Yeah.
but I do partake in worship.
That's good. All right, so a question I would like to ask is that if there's any reason, given or otherwise, that you feel like a person might be guilty, do you ever wish that the prosecutor...
Wait, first of all,
Yeah.
guilt is not for me to determine, and it's actually the last thought that comes to my mind. I never ask a client if they're guilty.
Never?
Or if never. It's not my practice to do so, and I try not to entertain the thought. I might have a particular perception, but I'll never express it. You're here to me for help. If you decide to tell me directly, that's another issue, but that's usually not the thinking.
Okay, but if it's a case that there's reasonable evidence to purport that they might be guilty, however, because you're so exceptionally gifted in what you do,
I do consider myself to be, but
right,
yes.
the person win the case. How does that make you feel? Like, is there such perverse pleasure knowing that you got the person off and really and truly it looked like it's possibly guilty? Is there some perverse pleasure behind it?
Perverse pleasure is quite a strong way to put it. It's more the real pleasure comes from the fact that you had put in maximum work, hard work into it, and dedication, and that you're just bearing the fruits of your labor. That's where the pleasure comes from. It's not necessarily about whether the man was guilty and you were successful in having him acquitted, because those issues somewhat concern morality, and that's not my job.
That's not your job.
That's not my job.
Okay. So would you say that the prosecutor they need strong-minded, passionate lawyers on their team? Because I would say the defense lawyer, they are more in it to win because they're actually benefiting usually from the client paying them than the prosecutor who's just representing what the country is. It that's how it go, right?
Yes, essentially.
So is there more passion from the defense coming in than the prosecutor?
Well, my view is that there are a lot of very good prosecutors at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, and they are very dedicated to their roles and their jobs, but they all do it for different reasons. So, I don't think it's a situation where you can say it's necessarily for financial reward, but they do have their reasons.
So social media, how does a lawyer or attorney should use social media to get their message out there saying that they're a defense attorney? Is it a no-no to say that they cannot use social media?
I wouldn't say it's a no-no, but there are certain regulations that govern how lawyers can advertise.
Okay.
And it is not a matter of what you do or how, it's really a matter of how you do it and how it can be portrayed, because it cannot be like a motor car advertisement or a party advertisement. But the real way how lawyers get work is through referrals.
Okay.
Mainly.
But wouldn't you say that?
For example, I am not on any social media.
Yeah, I know.
I've not been on any
But you're
social
one of
media
the
for
best.
years,
But
but I do get a lot of work.
But not a lot of person works under high profile firms, So how would they survive?
You see,
To be realistic, there's a lot of person leaving the university, but there's not a lot of employment in the workforce to fill the demand for those person leaving.
Yes.
Right? I know of lawyers that are actually working in call centers.
Yes.
And stuff like that.
That's a choice.
That's a choice.
Nobody told him to do that.
Right. It comes back to the animalistic desire to win, right?
The animalistic desire to win.
Okay.
And that burning desire to succeed.
Predator or prey.
Exactly.
Okay. How do you reach to that level of mindset? What type of thought you have to tell yourself to reprogram your mind as such? To see everything as...
First of all, I did not need any reprogramming, so to say.
Yeah.
I was programmed that way through my upbringing. Just growing up, I'm accustomed to see my father being a very hard worker. He's an accountant by profession. And what would be the normal practice is that almost every single summer I'll be by his office working. And I started at every single level.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So they give you work.
So when I was in high school, I used to do bureau work with his office, go to NHT, deliver letters, and kind of have an understanding of the road and how it goes. And then I started to do more desk work and internal work and audit appeals and so on.
And you had no problem doing all of that?
None at all.
It was your time spending with the old man.
And then, no, it wasn't really like that. There was no, at work it's work. There was no emotional connection at work that way. But a lot of times, even he would have to visit clients out of town. I travel with him and visit the clients and do the clients' meetings. So that transcended into my practice now. Many lawyers have difficulties. Oh, I have a case in Montego Bay, but I have difficulty driving all the way to Montego Bay. For me, that's commonplace. That's commonplace. We're used to this.
Yeah.
And even with working on the weekends, I used to work on the weekends at my father's office during the school year. So I'm used to it.
So you go back to what you said in the introduction that it was suggested by a family member that criminal law was the best fit for you based on your personality.
Based on personality.
And all of that so you were on the training ground with your father growing up.
Without even realizing. That's how I'd see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Would it be a fair assumption to say that you would be the next best lawyer? Your name will be known just as how Mr. Champagne's name will be known. You're in grooming.
Over time, if I stay on the set trajectory, should be.
And that's very important.
Yes.
Should you see yourself leaving Jamaica for any other opportunity?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Would it be fair to say because crime will always be here?
No, that is not the issue. That's far from the issue actually. I feel like Jamaica is a country with a lot of potential. You have many persons who are in our peer group that are of the view that they should migrate for better prospects. But what we should look at is the fact that we have several immigrants from India and China that come here for a better life.
But,
why is that?
But I would say that
and they do business here and they do it better than us.
Because a poor man at China, when he comes here, he's Mr. Chin. You know, when a poor man comes from India, you know, he's Mr. Fong or wherever it might be. I mean, that's the perception he'll normally be greeted as.
It all boils down to mindset.
Mindset.
Just like what we spoke about earlier, the desire, it all boils down to that.
Well, Richard, not many persons have the opportunity to have an exceptional role model like your father or Mr. Champagne, right? Not many persons have the finance,
the means
for educational upliftment. But you say a winning mentality is very important to achieve anything you want to achieve. How would you advise a person to get that type of thinking without that resources of fatherhood, you know, finance? The odds are against them, basically. What would you advise them? What are some of the things?
You see, my view is, and I'm trying to be as objective as possible, is that it all boils down to mindset and what you want. You can't force somebody to want to be successful. They have to want it for themselves, and they put the necessary steps in place to get there, because they can be assisted, you know. So it depends ultimately on what you want.
So you're saying it doesn't happen overnight.
It really doesn't. All right.
All
right. Let me explain something to you. For instance, and this is touching back on when I just started.
All right.
Leaving law school, I had sent out over 50 job application letters. Right? I got called for like 5 interviews. I was rejected in all of them. Well, not sure if I was rejected, but I was not called back. So there's only one way to perceive that. And thereafter, I was just like, well, I just have to do what I have to do. I can't sit and then decide to work in a call center.
So you're willing to give yourself voluntarily?
So I was willing to even give off myself voluntarily.
But you were saying that it didn't happen right away, that you called Mr. Champagne and he called you right away. It was like an year after, basically?
No, what really happened was, so as I indicated before, I gave him a call, told him I wanted to work along with him on some of his cases. Not for a job, you know, just to work with him on a few cases.
For a job,
and then after the first case that I assisted with, I was called to, you know, assist every now and then.
How long was that time period though?
Was
it like a year, couple months?
So it was like after about a year, I then asked him, you know, why not have me as a member of your chamber?
Oh, you put it to him?
I asked him.
Okay.
I remember it was actually in the Christmas period, the Yuletide season. We're actually having a drink at a local bar up Stony Hill, nearby Stony Hill. And we were talking about work and the cases, because I was assisting right throughout the year. And I said, well, considering that I'm basically there so much, why not make some space for me?
Right.
And then he's like, okay, start Monday.
So if you hadn't asked, you'd basically still be there, you know, I mean, eventually, but because you asked, you showed the interest that you really wanted to be a part of it. So you would basically say to others that it's a step to reach where you want to reach. There's going to be times when the door is going to be closed, but you still have to pursue it anyway.
You still have to pursue. You still have to proceed.
And many persons cannot go no. It's like a big rejection to them. Many persons don't even wait to hear stop.
It can be heartbreaking, but it's even better when you overcome that struggle.
Winning mentality.
Yeah.
All right. Richard, before we close, is there any way the viewers can reach you should they have any legal issue? I mean, social media or the office? Is there any way they could reach you?
They can just Google me.
They could Google you.
Yeah.
All right. And you'll promise them a sure win, right?
I can promise them the best defense put forward.
All right, no problem. All right, so there you have it, guys. We have Mr. Lynch in the hot seat. We encourage you to check out our website at fituniversity.org. We have fitness program lined up for you. Some of them is free, some of them you can purchase. We have online training platform for you. Get in the gym, be of the best mind, mentality, and health, and then you can pursue anything in life along that path. All right. So see you on the next episode.